This is Dolany TV, and ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to discuss some Edmonton Oilers off-season acquisition moves. No, not trades, obviously, because we've discussed that a couple of times in the past week. We got to give that a break. However, we got to go give ourselves a chance to handle the off-season in the other way you handle the off-season, that being via the UFA market. And today, I'm going to bring you three guys that I really think, one's an ex-Oiler, I'm not going to kid you there, three guys that the Oilers can pick up for very cheap. And now what I'm essentially saying is very cheap, hopefully under $1.5 million. And the key here with these guys, handling the situation, is what Ken Holland was brought in to do. Well, guess what? Handling the situation is signing a quality guy for $1.5 million or less, a guy that has the potential, the ability to do what Mr. Alex Chiasson did this year for us. Whether you re-sign him or not, he's in the fold as of now. That's why I'm not saying we need to go out and re-sign Chiasson. That's another discussion for another day. But today, let's go kind of fantasize about three guys that you could see on the Oilers next year on $1.5 million or less deal, and see what they can bring. So three guys. Obviously, there's a couple of ideas as to who to grab, and I went digging through all the free agents I could find, and I found us a couple of guys, as I mentioned, an ex-Oiler, and they are all wingers, because what I'm looking at here, when I'm talking about handling the situation, I'm talking about finding a guy who is supposed to do what Tobias Rieder was supposed to do this year. Obviously, yes, asterisk in all of this is to sit here and realize, hold on, that is barring that Tyler Benson, Cooper Marody, you've got Kyler Yamamoto, and Jesse Puljujärvi aren't the big contributing fixes for Ken Holland. This is kind of the patchwork, make it, handle it, and do the job that you can do within the cap constraints if you're Ken Holland. So let's start off with number one out of the New Jersey Devils, who this year had a cap hit of $700,000, began the year in Montreal, and ended up being shipped over to the New Jersey Devils, played 27 games there. He in total had 24 points in the NHL this year, Mr. Kenny Agostino. And Kenny Agostino, if you guys are like, man, that's an irrelevant name, I haven't heard that in a while, but I do remember hearing it. You would have heard him. He was a kind of hotshot prospect for the Calgary Flames. Didn't pan out as well as maybe they had hoped. They kind of shipped him around, though, I believe, to St. Louis back in 2016-17's offseason. Let me trade history. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Actually, there's only one trade history to the Pittsburgh. What the heck? Oh, man, maybe I'm missing. Yeah, I don't know what I'm missing. Okay, anyway, all good. I only have one trade history here, so maybe I'm missing. Maybe he was picked up on waivers by New Jersey. That actually sounds more correct. But there you go. So why would I be looking at Kenny Agostino as a guy that can solve the Tobias Rieder problem, the Toby Rieder problem, the Bob Nicholson needs 13, 12, 10 more goals out of Tobias Rieder for us to be a playoff team? How does this solve this problem? Well, over an arch of a full season for Kenny Agostino, career-wise, games played to points, percentage, times an 82-game full season, Kenny Agostino is a guy who clips 29 points a year. Now, that is where I get to the Alex Chiasson part of it, because that's essentially what Chiasson did for us this year. And if you get a cheap contract that does what Chiasson did in place of Toby Rieder, all of a sudden you've got yourselves a guy that's going to contribute. I'm not saying a guy that's going to make the difference, that's going to be make or break to the playoffs. No, this is just a guy that the Oilers can look at as part of Ken Holland handling the situation as it is. That's just my take, but a lot can be said for what 29 points in the lineup as opposed to Toby Rieder's 12 assists could do for the team next season. Now another guy next on the list. This is where it gets fun, guys. You can hate on this if you want. You can have a field day with this if you want, that I'd even go as far to maybe suggest this. Thing is, There's another guy, and I mean, this is ex-Oil files and maybe the Sam Gagner resurgent kind of thing, over the ashes, rises the Phoenix kind of deal, that Sam Gagner went from the AHL to the NHL and was impactful on our second line, third line, wherever we needed him any given night down the stretch. Well, Magnus Pääjärvi. Oh, I already hear those comments, guys. I already hear those comments. Sorry. If yeah, no, I understand the connotation of the name, and I go against myself here, but when I'm talking $1.5 million or less to fix the Toby Reeder problem, a guy who, for all intents and purposes, had an alright year, 19 points in 80 games played. Yes, a more elevated role in Ottawa. Oh, okay, yeah, I know, tough go. I'm not sitting easy on it either. But when it comes to Magnus Pääjärvi, he clips a 21.7 point per 82 game season over his career. Right there, that's why I suggest him. That number allows you to look at the career production and say, for $1.25, $1.3 million to replace Toby Reeder, if we're going to get a UFA, does that help? And I think it does. That's a 9-point added production to your lineup. Now in a fourth line role, that's exactly what you're asking for. Your fourth line, if they can get 20 points each, whew, guys, unfriggin' believable. But does Magnus Pääjärvi bring that in a fourth line role? Probably not. But he has the capability, given the arch of his career, games played to point production. So right there you go. That's the numbers that I'm operating on. Now, I could be out to lunch, but I think Magnus Pääjärvi is a guy that could bring that kind of production to the Oilers should he be brought back into the fold. Do I want Magnus Pääjärvi back? Guys, there's a reason he was shipped, obviously. And this is, of course, you got to look at the numbers. You can run a guy out of Edmonton as many times as you want. The numbers, they were not good. He was a great AHL producer. 16 points in 42 games, but there's a lot more to Magnus Pääjärvi than just the point production, lack thereof, whatever you look at. But guys, a guy that, now a veteran guy, different situation in Edmonton, building a different roster, potentially allows you to open the door to bring him back and handle him as part of the situation that is the cap in Edmonton. So guys, that leaves me with my last guy on the list, and I've banged on the doors of the Vegas Golden Knights once before for a trade target for this guy in the regular season. Never ended up happening. Peter Chiarelli was GM. Keith Gretzky was mostly not allowed to make moves until the last minute and then really didn't make anything flashy. But you look at a guy who made $650,000 in Vegas this year, splitting time between the AHL and, of course, the NHL, playing 31 games, 18 points this year. Brandon Pirri, you remember how great he was to start his stretch in Vegas. He obviously cooled down given what happened, but 42 points in 29 games. He's that bubble player, that guy that can produce, might produce, could produce kind of deal. And 18 points in 31 games, you really can't say that's a terrible clip at all. That's, guys, we're talking numbers right there at that point. We're talking 40 points out of a bottom six forward. But when you go to talk about Brandon Pirri over his career averages for an 82 game season, we're talking 37.5 points out of an 82 game campaign. Well, suddenly right there, when you're talking the Toby Reeder solution, the Toby Reeder problem, though we need 10 more goals, Bob Nicholson talking to fans, well, guess what? Right there, that's your Alex Chiasson type surprise for a cheap contract, capable of doing it and should be able to do it given the Oilers roster moving forward. Now, does it happen? Does it work? Will it work? Has it worked? That's kind of the headline questions here when you're trying to be Ken Holland and handle the situation. It just doesn't work whatsoever, but you got to take a chance. And as I said, if you look at the kids and they're a solution, but they're not a solution you like to start with, signing a guy for $1.5 million, if you have the cap space to do so, might just be the way to go. Fix the Toby Reeder in and out contract kind of deal and see what you have. Worst case scenario with any of these three guys, you sign them to a 1-year deal, less than $1.5 million. You go out there and you trade him at the deadline. Simple as that. It's as simple as that, guys. For the Edmonton Oilers, you take low risk, high reward, you trade him whenever you need to trade him, and you move on. You take the free cap, you take the whatever in return, and you clear it out. That's as simple as it can be for the Oilers to solve this Toby Reeder problem that Bob Nicholson is all about. Guys, I'm Tyson, this is Dolany TV. Those are 3 cheap UFAs the Edmonton Oilers should look at this offseason. As always, I will catch you in the next one. I am up on out of here.